Hi everyone, it's Penny Black and Jill Foster here with another PB&J card class. This is number 8 out of 8 in our video series called Sketch School, where I've been revisiting sketches from previous videos and ebooks and using them with new Christmas themed goodies from Penny Black, and just really sharing how I make sketches work for me and return to old sketches and keep using them. But as something a little bit different, I wanted to offer you today a bonus sketch, a new sketch that we'll be creating with today. So this sketch I'm going to show you in just a moment. I love this sketch. It's very easy to do, and it is created using our double frames die. So this is a new die. Here is a look at the sketch. Essentially, you're adding that framed element, adding a die cut or a stamped piece down at the bottom and a sentiment at the top. So you could do this with our double frames, which I think really make the card, but you could try this with other dies that you have on hand, just layering them up to get that effect. So if you want to take a screenshot of this, now you have a bonus, a new sketch. And if you love card sketches, card ideas and variations using those sketches, make sure if you haven't yet already checked out my ebook inspiration. There's 3 ebooks listed and linked for you down below, along with playlists with videos for each of those as well. So this is that new double frames die. I'm cutting mine all from Canson 140-pound watercolor paper, and look at that, you can use them by themselves, but they are something magical when you layer them up and put them onto your card. This is a standard 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card base there, and you can see those 2 frames. You can use them by themselves or you can put them together. I love the detailing of the lines on the frames, and as you can see, I prepped ahead of time and I have an envelope with all of these frames cut. I also have some smooth cardstock that fits just behind those frames but doesn't extend beyond the edge. So if I want to do some inking that only shows in the center but doesn't go out to the edges of my card, I have all of that prepped as well. So I have one of those for each of the cards. And now I'm ready to begin working. So what I did is I just went through my stash and picked out a few of my favorite Penny Black Christmas dies, and I'm just going to paint them. So I cut them all from Canson 140-pound cold press watercolor paper, and as I've been doing in all of the videos in this series, I'm painting them in using Distress Ink Reinkers used as watercolors, which is what you can see there on my palette. Off to the side I have a cup of water and a paper towel. So I'm just going to paint in these die cuts, and this is really fun to do. It's pretty easy to paint die cuts, but you still get that really handmade, beautiful watercolor look, almost like an easy no line watercolor, because of course there's no stamped line on these. And it's a great way to practice watercoloring, whether you're new or you've been doing it for a while. I just find it really enjoyable to paint them. And you can work assembly line style. You can die cut all the frames, go through your stash, just pick out your favorite Christmas dies and die cut a bunch of them from that same watercolor paper, and then just sit down and paint them all at once. Then go back and assemble the cards at the same time. So you just work assembly line style but not get bored, because you're changing up that focal point that you are painting and making your card with. You can change up your color schemes that you are doing. So this die is called Glorious, and it is really fun to paint. I'm just going to layer up my colors here, getting some variations in reds, leaving some lighter areas. I think that makes it look just a little bit more dynamic and just lively and fresh looking. I'm even going to pull in a little touch of this purple to darken up some of the edges of these petals. That really gives it a dynamic look. So don't be afraid to add a little touch of purple with your reds. Now I will list for you down in the YouTube description box below all of the Penny Black stamps and dies, and everything that I'm using will be listed and linked for you down below. I also have a section called Other Supplies, where I'm listing all of the ink colors paint colors, what paintbrush I'm using. All of that, the paper is listed for you in that section. I also have several videos listed for you, like I said, those playlists for the ebooks, and also a video on my watercoloring process. So if you want to see that in more detail and with frequently asked questions answered, there's a link for a video to that as well. So lots of stuff down there for you to keep exploring our channel. And Penny Block is working to grow our YouTube channel. So if you enjoy this video and this content, please be sure, check and make sure that you're subscribed and that you like the video, because that just helps in the YouTube algorithm that more people see this video, and it helps us to grow our channel here. So I'm just going in and finishing up some of the details, and that is dry. Now I did cut it twice from that watercolor paper, and I'm just gluing those two together, and this just creates some dimension to this without having to mess around with putting any foam tape or anything on the back. And you definitely don't have to do this step, but in person I really love how this looks. I do it all the time because I feel like it's such a simple thing, but it makes such a difference. So now these frames, I'm actually going to paint them. So I cut them from that watercolor paper, and I'm going to go ahead and paint them. So you could cut them also from colored cardstock, or at the very end of this video, I'm going to show you some other ideas with these frames using stamps, and I did not paint all of those frames. But I just wanted to show you here, this is really fun to do too, and then they will coordinate perfectly with whatever you're putting on the inside of the frames. Now I did kind of pay attention to which frame am I going to see the whole frame and which one is layered behind. So that one is behind, so I didn't go all the way out to the edges with my painting. Here I'm using that exact same color. This is the Evergreen Bough color, but I'm just using it with more water. So when I put it onto the frame, I'm going back with my brush into my water and coming back with a wet brush to blend it out. That will make it be lighter than the frame that it will be layered on top of, but still the same color. So I put a little bit of tape behind that, and I'm going to stamp on my frame now. So I have our music note background stamp, and I am going to stamp that just for a tone on tone look. So just to hold it in the MISTI, I just put some Scotch double-sided tape behind the frame to hold it on there. And I removed sort of my paper liner of the MISTI, and I'm just adhering it directly to that. I don't know, it's kind of a plasticky mouse pad finish of the MISTI. That helps it stay without like causing any damage. And you can see here I'm just stamping those that music note background. I love how that looks on the frame. So don't be afraid to just make your frame the design, and you could just put a sentiment on the inside without even another image. Here I'm taking a little bit of white acrylic paint. It's over there on a sticky note. This is just cheap acrylic paint like from Walmart. And my finger, you could use a brush, but I think it's easier with my finger, and just rubbing that along the frame. I think it just gives it a distressed look without it being like a dark brown, and also sort of a snowy look. So that's all that is. I'm just rubbing that on the frame. Now the stamping that I did of those music notes, that was with a waterproof ink, so it doesn't start reblending and remixing with this paint. I'm even going to pick up just a little bit of that acrylic paint with my just a fine tip paintbrush. It's from my stash. It's nothing fancy or anything. And just add a little snow here and there on that frame. You could splatter it as well. Whatever you're most comfortable with. This is just easier to control and less messy. So this is the approach that I take. And then this is that little background piece. So this is that piece that's going to be in the center of the card inside of those frames. So I'm going to ink this up using an ink blending tool and a foam pad with some Memento Toffee Crunch ink. Just a very light tan. I love this ink. I use it all the time because it doesn't go yellow. I'm also going to put just a touch of gathered twigs around that outer edge. Now not much of that's going to show. I'm just going to test this here of how much that is showing. But I want a little bit of contrast there. And we're ready to begin assembling the card. I stamped my sentiment, I put down my first frame, and then this frame I'm going to pop up with foam tape. And look at those layers, I just think it's so pretty. I'm also going to pop up this with foam tape. You can play around with if you want to tuck some of those elements in between the frames or have it layered on top. And then that is the finished card. You can see I tucked just one little petal there underneath for some interest. Now stay tuned here. I'm going to have lots of card ideas for these frames to show you. So here's the one we just made. It's got that dimension, that beautiful poinsettia on it. Here is another. So I put the sentiment at the bottom, so playing around with the sketch, just turned it upside down basically, rotated it, and have added our another die cut from my stash there up at the top. It's listed down below. Here I've turned it the other way, a landscape orientation, and I've sort of tucked and manipulated those leaves and those berries, some on top of the frame, some sort of coming out from between the two frames. Same idea here, another die from my stash that was painted, a little different color scheme just for something different. So those all use the techniques in the sketch that I showed you before. Here I wanted to show you those double frames with just some stamping inside. So all I did with the frames, I didn't paint them, I just did a little Toffee Crunch inking on that card. This one I painted and added some more of the acrylic paint, but with a stamped image inside and those snowflakes sort of tucked in between the layers. This one I really took advantage of those layers with a stamp and cutout. And if you want to see what was used on these cards, visit our blog. We'll have them each listed individually, and underneath each card picture is a link to all of the penny black products that were used on that card specifically. So if there's one you just love and you want to know what was on it, check out our blog post. That will help you find that. I thank you so much for joining in for this series of Sketch School. I thank you so much for all of your kind words and comments and encouragement. I hope you've enjoyed it and you're inspired to use some card sketches or dig into your stash or use something new and have some fun creative time. Be sure you like and subscribe, and happy stamping!